Welcome to Grazing Hell, the one and only podcast made by a cow. And today, I've got a guest, as I'm sure you can see if you're watching on YouTube, and that is Ethan is online. Oh, woo!
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, no, thank you. I'm so happy to have you. You know what I keep doing in my head? Is I keep calling you Ethan is in trouble, which is not, I don't know why. I think maybe because Dylan is in trouble, even though you don't make similar content.
Right.
But I always have the urge to call you Ethan is in trouble, but it's Ethan is online. So I was really scared I was going to say it wrong, but I said it right, so we're good.
Thank you. No, that's funny.
Yeah.
I've thought about just changing it to Ethan eventually, just because it's so, I don't know, like YouTube doesn't care if you have the same name as somebody else, but I felt like, at least in this period where I'm kind of growing a lot, it's more grabbing of a name. And if someone was like, oh, do you watch Ethan? It's like, oh, Crank Gameplays or H3H3 or any of the other more popular Ethans.
Yeah, exactly. It's no, I think it's smart to have Ethan is online because I think before I came across you, when people say Ethan, my first thought would be H3.
Right.
He's but now when I think Ethan, I think of you.
Wow.
And speaking of, do you want to tell the people about yourself, what you do, that kind of thing, what your stuff's about?
Yeah, I make commentary adjacent kind of content. It's a big inspiration of mine it's like the old H3 Productions videos where I kind of just pull out a video and I riff on it. I do some goofs and I always try to throw in some leftist politics. The synopsis of my channel is that everything's political in one way or another, and I'm going to tell you how.
Yeah, I like that. I like merging of comedy and politics. And especially because, we were talking about this before we started recording, but I feel like it wouldn't be unfair of me to say that you live in quite an absurd country. Do you feel like that's a fair...
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so for those who don't know, Ethan, I don't know if you can tell from the accent, but Ethan is from the US, and, a lot of wild shit goes on there.
It's rough.
So defeated. It is.
Yeah, and
but you talk about Turning Points USA quite a bit. You've done 2 videos on that. Well, tell us about that. Tell us about all your favorite political people to talk about.
Yeah, I like to kind of think back to the 2016, 2017 era where Ben Shapiro kind of came up and Jordan Peterson came out of nowhere and Steven Crowder and all these guys really started gaining a lot of steam and started building the platforms that they have today. And I think we're seeing a decline in that currently. I think there's a lot more leftists or openly leftist content creators like yourself, Noah Sampson, Hassan Piker, even the H3 Productions, as we were just saying, one of the most notorious people, and love him or hate him, I love him, but he has gone through an open, change of mind in his politics that you can see through his content over time. And I think I really like to point out, I did a video on Turning Point USA that they really fell off. They're not, they don't have as strong of a pull. They're just circular, kind of repeating the same arguments and recycling the tired old concepts that they came up on. And it's this is what happens with conservatives. They can't move forward because they're anti-progressive. And so I just love pointing it out because it's really funny.
It is. If you're anti-progressive, you quite literally can't move forward. You only move backwards.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, Turning Point USA, whenever I think of them, I think of this clip. I don't know if it was at Turning Point USA, the women's event. They have a women's. It's very and
Turning Pink USA.
Yeah, it's Ladies for Trump in bright pink, and it's very garish and cringe. But he gave this speech about when he met his wife, and he was interviewing her, and he was like, "I'm not going to hire you. I'm going to marry you." And it's that is not the mic drop you think it is.
And I don't understand. I've never had that issue before. Do you think that I had an issue understanding where Charlie stood when he looked at me across Bill's Burgers table and said, "I'm not going to hire you. I'm going to date you"?
No.
That is harassment in the workplace.
Oh, that's so awful.
It's just so... Yeah, it was grim, and I was just like, this is not the boom boom you think it is. I don't know. It's just yoink.
I was just gonna say, like, conservatives love to take like obvious examples of like harassment and be like, isn't that awesome? Like, I feel like it's a common meme. And it's like, I'm not gonna hire you, I'm gonna marry you. I love that.
It's like have you seen, I'm sure you have, you can't have missed it because you're on Twitter, the whole POV type thing where they get a picture of a girl, like a pretty girl, and they'll be like, you see her in the grocery aisle.
Yeah,
what
how
can
do you open?
say? Yeah, and I feel like it's like that, except they do it in real life. They actually got someone who they're interviewing, and they're like, "You're gonna marry me," and it's like, ooh.
Yeah, they're the ultimate pickup artists. Or I guess I should say, like, in their own way, like they're the put down artists because it doesn't work.
Yeah, it's really. Oh yeah, it is quite grim. But actually, so since you do have like a political slant in your work, do you think you would ever do debates or anything like that? What are your thoughts on debates?
I don't like debate culture on the internet. I think it's really toxic. Right. It ultimately, debates are, they're a sport. It's not, you're not going to convince any opponent unless it's like some random guy from like someone who's not making a living off of holding the positions that they hold. Some people will debate like random people from their audience or whatever, and that is fine, but I don't think I would ever do that. I'm not as confrontational. I'm a little shy. Like I will, like, I'll call friends and family out when, I think they say something silly or, have like misconceptions about something, but I don't think debates are all that productive in like the content sense, where it's like I'm not a big fan of Vosh or Destiny or like any of the kind of debate guys. I just don't see the point. It's for fun, and it can be satisfying, and like I would love to see like a Hassan Piker Jordan Peterson debate or something, like, because that's just fun. But I think when it comes to like, this Twitter user has 14 followers and has a bad take, and it's like, of course they do. I don't need to talk to them about it.
Speaking of Twitter, I think you're a pretty avid Twitter user, I'd say. I feel like that's where we first spoke.
I am terminally online.
And that's why you're called that. People don't know this, but your birth name isn't Ethan, it's Ethan is online.
I decided to go with what was on my birth certificate.
Yeah, exactly. They somehow knew at that point, even before YouTube took off.
It was weird.
That you were going to be a YouTuber. Yeah, weird. Smart though. But yeah, so what would be your sort of things that come to mind when you talk about Twitter usage? What would be your sort of cautionary tales to people for using the hellscape that is Twitter?
So I try to keep it balanced. Every question is like, I try to keep it balanced. Like, I follow a lot of, like, as far as like my interests, like not everything I have is like politics related, but I do follow a lot of people in the games industry still. And because I was a game design major, and I, I'm very passionate about games and film, and that's like a lot of what my timeline is. And like, obviously, I follow a lot of YouTubers as well. And I think like to not lose your mind on Twitter, you just have to remember like my biggest rule. And I remember like YouTubers that I would follow back in the day would like, they'd quote tweet someone or like screenshot their tweet that was like a really bad political take. And they'd act like more than one person on the planet thinks that way. Like, you have to remember what a microcosm Twitter is. I think it has like something like, I don't even remember. I think it has over 1 billion users at this point. But like, that's not even remotely close to like the population of the planet. And like most of those users are like not active, not saying things. They're just, private, whatever, random accounts. And, the vocal minority that are really annoying on Twitter are just that. Like, they probably don't live anywhere near you. You'll never interact with them. Like, don't get mad. It's stupid.
It is funny, I think, to see how riled up people get online. And you described yourself as terminally online, and I would describe myself as the same because of my job and because of, you know, my interests and stuff. And I think it is very easy to get in your head and to think that, oh God, people are like this. And I think also some of it is performative. Some of it is like you exaggerate your opinions. You exaggerate how angry something makes you for comedic effect.
Absolutely.
And I think people forget that you're using hyperbole. Like, you know what I mean? So, for example, do we actually think it's, you know, a feminist victory that the M&Ms are wearing block heels instead of stilettos? Speaking of, you just put out a video about that. Tell me about your thoughts on the M&M-gate. Let's call it that.
First of all, I'm furious. No, I just put out a video this morning that I filmed and edited in one day, so it's really good.
Oh my!
The same thing happened with my video last week too. Yeah, I edit kind of every day, so I'm getting pretty good at it. But yeah, I talk about Tucker Carlson and Greg Gutfeld's reaction to the whole thing, and I don't know, it's just such a non-story. Like, especially, I love the stilettos to block heels. Like, I'm really particular about what candy mascots are wearing on their feet, and if they're a different kind of the same like genre of shoe, I'm pissed. Like, I make a joke where I'm like, you know, Tucker Carlson's mad that she went from stilettos to block heels because it doesn't hurt as much when they stomp on you. Like,
ooh,
you know,
good point.
He's got to have something else there.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's the whole culture wars thing. I mean, that's, I think, another thing about being online. It's all about clicks, and I think you've got to just get they've got to pretend to be mad at the dumbest things,
right,
so we can laugh at them. And that's the thing. It's kind of like we're all participating in it in a way, but you can't help it because it's also just very funny. Like, is it Minnie Mouse? She's changed from a dress to is it a pantsuit or onesie? Something involving trousers, right? And it's like, do they genuinely care, or do they just want their audience to just be like seals going, oh, yes, you know what I mean? Like,
I mean, it's, you know, it's the Minnie Mouse thing. I tried to find clips of Candace Owens talking about it for that same video, and I wanted to talk about that too, but I just couldn't. Like, Fox News did not want that embarrassing clip on their YouTube channel for whatever reason. But what's funniest about that too is that it's not even a permanent change. It's just for like an anniversary, and it's just in Disneyland France. But conservatives will like extrapolate so much where it's like a game of telephone where it becomes, this is her new outfit and it's because of feminism. It's like, it's not. It's like a brand collaboration or something. It's like, it's so funny.
It really is.
And then when she makes an appearance in the regular clothes, it's going to be a victory for conservatism, you know?
Of course.
Because they don't actually have real victories. Like, the real victories are, you know, the prison industrial complex that no one can say out loud is good, but is the actual good of, like, you know, private prison owners.
Yeah, because it makes them, I mean, that is a, I suppose that's the thing. If you have that kind of mindset, it's a good distraction, because otherwise you have to admit that, like the victory for me is, you know, incarceration and
because Trump was president for 4 years.
Rights.
Yeah, exactly. Trump was president for 4 years, and like the majority of Republican voters got nothing out of it. Like, corporations and the wealthy got $2 trillion in tax cuts, and I guess, like, you know, West Virginia got some racism. They're still living in third world conditions according to the UN, but
oh Lord.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, it's terrible.
Yeah. So what got you into politics? What got you into it? Have you always been, or has it been like have you been radicalized?
Well, yeah. So I think of myself as being American is, I think it's hard not to be involved in politics one way or another, because there's so much, it's hard to avoid. Our politics is definitely like marketed to us, but at the same time, like, I was definitely one of the kids that got like enraptured into the like right-wing pipeline in 2016, 2017. And I have a lot of resentment for the creators that got me there, like Jordan Peterson and others. Like, I didn't go too far. I always thought Ben Shapiro was a dweeb, and I thought Steven Crowder was stupid. But it was the like anti-SJW YouTubers that are still around today, that just don't talk about politics anymore because that's cringe. You know, it's like those are the people that really like got me to think that Black Lives Matter was bad. And, you know, I think when I was like 18 or 19, I kind of just, you know, during that time I went through a really bad, like, you know, high school breakup. So I was really like angry, but, you know, coming out of that, I kind of realized like how manipulated I had been and how, you know, how much I had been lied to, and whether it was intentional or those people were just stupid, like, I don't really care. And I think, especially in this like modern era of my content, I want to undo that, not only for, you know, other people, but like for the internet as a whole as best as I can. Like, I want to be that counterculture, because like you can't, it's just really frustrating to feel that like taken advantage of as like a viewer, I guess. It's weird saying it out loud, because it's just kind of like a feeling of just like, I want revenge. Like I want to be like, you know, speaking the truth and like using data. That's why I try to, as often as I can, I cite articles, I use data. And, you know, my most controversial video is my video about the NoFap guys on TikTok. And, you know, as much data as I can throw out there from the American Psychological Association that, you know, porn addiction isn't real and sex addiction isn't real, and it's cultural values that, like, you know, make people feel like those things are real. I still get people in my comments saying, you know, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Please read this, you know, heavily church funded study that is extremely biased and has like no, you know, like a pool of like 3 people.
Yeah. No, I mean, I respect your honesty there. I think that's a really, I think we all have phases, edgelord phases.
Yeah.
You know, I had my edgy atheist phase where I was like, Sky Daddy, and it's like, that's so cringe. Shut the fuck up.
No,
like,
that's kind of like where I went from there. Absolutely. We
all go through it. And I think it's interesting when you use the word manipulate, because I think that is a big part of, you mentioned earlier that if your living depends on you having very inflammatory views and not changing your mind and not looking at, you know, letting research sway you and that kind of thing, it does mean you inevitably have to lie to your audience. I mean, PragerU are very big on that.
They get paid to do it.
Yeah, you know, PragerU have a youth division, like younger
kids
teenagers, pre-university. Yeah, and it's just, oh yeah, you made a video about it, of course. But yeah, it's sad, but it's also not very surprising. And I think part of it is, I don't know whether, if I don't have younger siblings, but say if I did, would I intervene, or would I let them just have that journey for themselves? Right. Because perhaps intervening would mean they're less likely to listen and more likely to pull back and go in deeper. I don't know. I guess that's a hard one, I think. What do you think? Like, what was changing your mind? Did you change your mind because of content or because of people in your real life, do you think?
That's a good question. I think my dad is like he's like an annoying liberal. Sorry, Dad, if you were watching this. You know, he's so like, you got to listen to both sides, and, you know, you can't kick Nazis off of college campuses because that, you know, justifies them. It's like, no, that's ridiculous. You know, and his input definitely did not help me want to change. But the things that he said kind of echoed in my mind over time, and like, they became more and more reasonable. And I think for me, it was just part of growing up. I also around the same time came out as bi, and dealt with a lot of like personal trauma, and, you know, just became less angry as a result. And that, you know, I think it was a lot of different factors, but I think definitely having like an older person with more experience, like, at least he wasn't like trying to change my mind, but he was, you know, talking to me about that, about politics and stuff, and having his perspective over time helped for sure. And if you know, I have 4 younger sisters, and if I saw any of them, if I saw any of them going down the same path that I would, I think the best way to do it is to just make fun of them, which is why I think, like, if I had an older brother or older sister that, you know, saw me watching like Armored Skeptic in 2017 and just walked in and was like, this is stupid and doesn't make any sense, and gave one argument, I probably would have been radicalized as a leftist way sooner.
I mean, yeah, I do wonder. I mean, it's amazing how much just goofing on someone works. Like, ContraPoints talks about this in a video on Cringe, how like, so I'm sure you're familiar with H Bomber Guy.
Oh yeah. And
how he talks about cringy people like, what's his name? David, is it Arini or Serini? And like, you know, and Sargon of Akkad and people like that. And he uses, you know, facts and logic or whatever, but ultimately he's just making fun of them. And I think that actually really helped bring people who were into that kind of content, because it was like using the same tactics of making fun of people, but like different side of things politically, and just the whole, I don't know, it's amazing how jokes can be so powerful.
Well, I think, you know, if you go about deconstructing someone's argument, it's like diffusing a time bomb, because if you mess it up or get something wrong, the people that know everything there is to know about that personality, because ultimately it's tied to, like, the radicalization, I think, is tied to different personalities, like Jordan Peterson, for example. Like, if you get something wrong, you know, his audience knows everything there is to know about him and will, like, turn it around on you. But if you just say, Jordan Peterson almost died because he drank apple cider, that's hilarious. He's not qualified to give life advice. You can't argue that. You can't. It's real. He admitted it himself, but you can't argue against that. And it's like, I think it is really effective, and it's definitely a balancing act as well.
True. I mean, I think my two favorite sort of, what's the word, like, conservative meltdowns. The first being, actually, okay, this comes in two parts. Two-part Ben Shapiro. Yeah. The first part being obviously the WAP
Oh my
stuff.
God.
Him
I can't believe you deleted that video.
Being like, yeah, I know. Yeah, I wonder why. But him self-reporting, saying, you know, these women are wet. That means they've got a medical condition. Oh, this is really bad.
I said certified freak 7 days a week. Wet ass P word. Make that pullout game weak with some wet ass P word. P word is female genitalia. Bring a bucket and a mop for this wet ass P word. This P word is wet. Come take a dive.
But the second part being when he went to, was it Home Base or one of the hardware stores? And
Home Depot, yeah.
Home Depot, sorry, yes.
Yeah.
Home Base is a UK one, similar thing. But Home Base at Home Depot, and he was like, I'm shopping here because they're not making a political stand. And then he's just got like a plastic bag and this big slab of wood just barely in the base sticking out.
I just went shopping at Home Depot. You should do the same. This wood, this board, this magnificent piece of poplar is now mine.
And I'm like, this is just so hilarious. Like, how can anyone take you seriously? And it's kind of beautiful. Yeah. And then the second example is obviously Steven Crowder versus Sam Cedar, when he thought he was debating H3, and then Sam Cedar comes in and he just has a complete meltdown. Yeah. It's quite beautiful.
Steven, do you know that the Spartans are like practice man love with children?
Oh, geez. Okay, so this is what's going to happen. What did I tell you? He was going to do anything he could to avoid. Oh, there he is. Oh no, Sam Cedar. What a fucking nightmare. I had no idea this was going to happen. I thought Ethan was a stand-up guy. It's just hilarious. Let's bring on FM.
You would do anything to avoid talking to me.
Those are probably my favorite moments from the last couple of years. Which spring to mind for you?
Yeah, I mean, those are great. The Ben Shapiro with the wood, that's like, it just lives in my mind, because he says so like, this magnificent piece of poplar is now mine. And it's like, well, what are you gonna do with that? Like, you could have bought a hammer, you could have bought a lawnmower, you could have bought anything.
And the way it doesn't fit in the bag, it's just sticking out. It's like, why did you have? What did you?
And he has the receipt in his hand, like, I bought this. I didn't just find it next to the dumpster. But no, yeah. I think there's definitely like the Jordan Peterson Slavoj Žižek debate. You know, as much as I said I don't really like debates, that one is just like, it was like a big moment in his career where he just stopped being taken seriously, because he was put in a position where he said, like, this might have been a different time, but he said something along the lines of like, there is proof of God because people stop smoking.
We have no way of confirming that this something mystical or supernatural actually happened. What this is about the language.
Stops people from smoking.
Well, you can stop smoking without any sort of supernatural intervention.
No, not really.
You can't stop smoking without supernatural?
There aren't really any reliable chemical means for inducing smoking cessation.
And it's like, you're a psychologist. What are you saying? Like, it's bizarre. I'm trying to think of another one. Yeah, WAP is great. Ben Shapiro recently went to a kindergarten and spoke to children.
Government is what takes all of your money and gives you very little in return.
That is not true.
Okay, that's kind. I mean, it's kind of true. It depends on the kind of government.
That's what taxes are for.
Yeah, that is what taxes are for. But taxes are theft, children. They're supposed to spend it on things like the police. As you get older, you will realize how little you like taxes.
Yeah, he's way off base about that.
Unfortunately, for the kids, and yeah, he was trying to explain how taxes are theft because the government is only supposed to use them on the police. And that's it. It's like, whoa, it's just such a telling example of what he thinks taxes are used for. It's like, like how we build roads though. Like,
right. Do you use those roads, Ben? Somehow I think you do.
Yeah.
I think you do.
When he keeps telling the kids like, there's no income tax in Florida. That's why Florida's the best state. And it's like, whoa, dude, like...
He doesn't even live there.
I thought he did. He keeps talking about how great Florida is.
Does he now?
I think he does. I think he went from Nashville to Florida kind of quietly because I'm guessing he didn't like Tennessee that much.
Right. Because I know he's from LA originally. He was raised in LA. So I always assumed, and maybe I'm wrong, but I assumed that he was just like saying stuff like that to sort of appeal to his audience.
Yeah.
So he's not seen as like a coastal elite when literally he is. He grew up in LA. He went to Harvard.
Yep.
He did go to Harvard, right?
Yeah, he went to Harvard Law.
Oh, wow. That's why I speak so quickly. You know, it doesn't matter what I'm saying, what my argument is, but if I just speak really quickly, I'll sound smart.
Yeah, and as a Californian, that's one of our superpowers. Is we speak really quickly. It's just kind of part of our accent.
Okay.
Like I think, not to call out Nick, but Nick and I talk all the time. He does speak a lot slower than I do. And I think it's really interesting to like compare stuff like that. I'm always thinking about like how, because Americans will be like, I don't have an accent, and it's like, no, if you have OCD like I do, you're always listening for people's accent when they say funny stuff. Like if you're from the Midwest, you probably say button instead of button. Like it's just a little differences. If you're from like the South and you kind of have more of a neutral American accent, you might say something like penny instead of penny. Just little stuff like that. But yeah, Ben Shapiro, I think, talks quickly also because he's annoying, but also because he's from California.
Yeah. No, I mean, he speaks especially quickly, though.
Yeah.
I mean, more than any Californian I know.
Oh, absolutely.
Blimmin' heck.
Because if he slows down, then you can see how stupid he is.
Exactly. But yeah, what would you say your most controversial video is? Is it the NoFap?
It's the NoFap video for sure. It's.
Do you want to explain, in case, I mean, I'm sure people do know because I've talked about it before, but do you want to explain what NoFap is and then your thoughts on it?
So NoFap initially started as a movement. I forget if I think it was just to like stop watching porn, not to stop masturbating entirely. And it kind of evolved into stop masturbating entirely with a very hard anti-porn stance on top of that. And so a lot of the guys who practice NoFap, especially on TikTok and social media, they're very vocal about it, are, they say that masturbation is incredibly unhealthy because it lowers your testosterone because it doesn't just come back. You don't have, hormones that regenerate and watching porn is very damaging for your brain, and they'll pull up brain scans from completely unrelated things and say this is a porn brain and a non-porn brain. And they'll say things like it's something that engages your pleasure response, so if you just do it anytime it's bad. And it's like, so does eating a bag of chips. Like everything engages your pleasure response. Brushing your teeth can engage your pleasure response. It doesn't mean it's bad. Like, you don't get desensitized to liking things. So it's my most controversial video because a lot of anti-sex work people are in the comments saying, you know, one person said like 90% of porn is trafficked, and that's just not a real statistic at all. It's so untrue. And like, I think the porn industry has a lot of issues, and there are, you know, violent, you know, videos of assault on the internet, and that's a horrible thing. But you know, advocating against the rights of sex workers only pushes them more into the margins and makes it more dangerous for them. And, you know, normalizing sex work. And that's why I think things like OnlyFans are great. Like, you have sex workers or models that are just, you know, they have full control over what they're doing, full control over their means of production. And they're, you know, making the content that they want to make at their own pace, at their own rate, and they're making money, and like, that's fantastic. And I think anyone who thinks it's like bad because, I don't know, it rots your brain or something is silly.
Incredibly. I mean, yeah, I could talk about that for days. And unfortunately, every time sex work comes up, I get, you know, barrage of comments being like, how can you defend this when you're a feminist? And it's like, you do realize that making people, you know, taking away people's autonomy and income and pushing them further into poverty it's not some feminist act that you think it is. It's actually conservative as shit. Like, it winds me up. And also, it's unrealistic to say, oh, I think porn is wrong, therefore let's get rid of it. Because it's like, porn has always and will always exist.
Yes.
Therefore, we should just make it as safe and as, like, fair as possible in terms of, like, workers' rights and protection.
Absolutely.
Getting rid of it is just so ridiculously unrealistic. Like, that would just never happen.
No, it never would.
And also, there's something inherently wrong with it. Like, it's you know, the issues with porn are like an industry thing. They're not the actual act itself, you know? Yeah. So...
And I think, you know, there's just... being anti-sex work is very strange to me, because, like, I understand the argument that it can... Like, porn absolutely does objectify women, and it objectifies men as well. But it's, like, for the male gaze. So I understand why, you know, people say that. But the answer is not to abolish porn. Like, that doesn't fix the problem.
It's to make more feminist porn.
Exactly. And there is feminist porn out there. Absolutely.
There is. Exactly. And, I mean, what is it? What do you think the motivation for these guys... Like, because to me, the reason isn't very clear.
Right.
Why is it because they feel like they're not having good relationships? What is it? What makes them do this? What makes them think I'm going to quit porn and potentially masturbation, or vice versa?
Right. I think so, like, a lot of times, you know, when, like, men do have, like, a sense of shame when they engage in porn sometimes. And I think, like, I haven't had that since I was a kid, and I was, like, raised in a more religious environment. And I think there are a lot of religious pressures against masturbation, and especially against watching porn. But I think, you know, it also has to do with, like, when you don't masturbate for a while, it's like a habit. So it's a habit that you feel shame about. So when you don't do it, you just don't feel that shame as often. And then it kind of turns into a complex where you feel like so, you know, like above everyone else, because you you assume that everyone else feels that same shame after watching porn or after masturbating. And people just turn that into their whole personality. And what I think is especially interesting is that all the NoFap guys, like, the entire argument is very male-centric, as if women don't also watch porn. And, like, especially married women watch more porn than single women do on average, and report, like, overwhelmingly, according to every study I've seen, that it improves their sex life. So... Like,
that's interesting. So do these guys also abstain from sex? Are they celibate, or is it just...
It's just masturbation.
Okay.
And some guys will say, like, you know, they'll mix it with, like, workout bro culture, where it's like, you know, if you have more testosterone, you can build more muscle, which is only true after a certain point. Testosterone levels after being celibate level out after about 7 to 14 days. And then after that, your semen motility actually starts going down because you're not cycling through, basically. And like, you're less fertile technically after 14 days of abstaining from ejaculation. Basically, it's not like a detrimental thing, but if you're trying to, like, have a kid and you don't do anything for 14 days, you're going to be a lot less likely.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You got anti-sex work comments? Did you get any NoFap bros in the comments?
Definitely. Yeah. And what I think the most frustrating argument is that, like, these guys are silly, but they don't represent NoFap. And then they'll hit me with a huge essay, and it's just like, I'm not reading that. Like,
yeah, it's also like they do represent it. Yes, it might not be everyone who follows it, but if they are the poster children,
yeah, it's like 50,000 likes on TikTok. Like, of course I'm going to talk about it.
Right. So, okay, so would you say it's a bigger thing on TikTok, this whole NoFap thing?
I feel like I've just heard it, like, forever. Like, whether it was, like kids in my youth group, you know, back in the day, or, like, you know, people online. Like, I feel like it was pretty popular among, like, the really religious kids in high school. Like, but I feel like TikTok is a smart platform for those guys, because they can just make it seem like, you know, they'll say, like, I'm on day 846 of NoFap, and it's like, either A, you might be asexual, which is totally fine, or B, you're lying, or you're just torturing yourself for no reason. Like, you know, it's just like, it's not fun to live like that.
Well, and there's as I'm sure you know, there's like numerous, you know, studies saying that, like, it decreases stress, and it's like good for sleep, it's good for your health. It's just like, it's like, and not to sound really clinical, but it's, you know, it's the same kind of thing as, like, getting, I don't know, a sports massage, or eating, or I don't know, it's like a bodily thing that it's good for you, you know. And if you don't enjoy it, then obviously that's totally fine. And if you don't feel the need to do it, then there's obviously, but it's like, as you say, if you want to, but then you force yourself not to, that's where the problem is, because it's like you're torturing yourself.
Yeah, so it's a normal, healthy thing that if you have the urge to do, you should just do. And, you know, I think their argument really, like I said, it just falls apart when you think about how male-focused it is, because it's like, okay, apply any of the things you're saying to, like, a woman. Like, your argument's falling apart, because, like, yeah, testosterone drives sex drive in women as well, but, like, they don't release testosterone when they masturbate. So, like, what how is it going to reduce their sperm count? Like,
so do they not at any point acknowledge women and AFAB people? They just ignore it. They're just like,
I never found someone acknowledging, like, AFAB people or women when it comes to NoFap or watching porn. No, because a lot of these guys are really young. They're my age or younger, and I think they just assume that women don't watch porn.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I mean, you said you grew up in a religious environment. I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't know that, you know.
True.
I didn't know that till much later. I always thought only boys did, because that's kind of what you're taught. You're taught that it's inevitable for boys to do, but girls don't. They don't, and it's just like,
yeah, exactly.
Damn. It's not healthy, but yeah, no, I mean, I love me a controversial video, and it was a very funny video. It was great. You. I mean, do you have any topics of yours that you in your head that you'd like to cover, but maybe you're a little bit hesitant to for whatever reason?
Yeah, I think I'm trying to think. I definitely want I want to do a video, because I did one recently about this ex-military guy who just sits and watches TikToks about trans people, and is trans. Oh my god, that one was ridiculous. And I guess he has like 100,000 subscribers on that channel, but he has a second channel people were telling me about that has 700,000 subscribers, where he talks about he's just like a military guy that does reacts, and it's like every video is like retired Marine reacts to China's military, or retired Marine reacts to
zero charisma as well. I'd like to add zero charisma.
Yeah, I don't know how the fuck and zero editing. Like, he can't edit his videos. That was the most frustrating part. It was insane. And I want to do a whole video kind of using that as a catalyst to talk about how the American military is kind of a scam. How, you know, America is so anti-socialist in all of its, you know, policies and like cultural opinions, but like the American military is in a very socialist sense, a jobs program. But the only outcome of it is destruction on all sides, like, you know, murder of people in the Middle East, and then PTSD for the people who are doing it, as well as, you know, soldiers take experimental drugs, and it's not good for anybody, and defending it is inhumane, especially when you're coming out of it. I think that one's definitely going to be a little controversial because people did not like that I made fun of him for being a Marine. But I have no reverence for people who come out of the military defending the military. I think it's insane. I understand a lot of circumstances for people, you know, I understand also that recruitment for the military is really predatory. But also some people just don't have many options and they end up doing it. And, you know, I think that's totally understandable. And I feel bad that that's what they had to do. But if they come out of it with like a reverence or like a, you know, love for what they did, then I don't like that. And I'm going to make fun of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's because they must know what has happened to their peers. Like, yes. I mean, I know, obviously it's different in the UK. We don't invest as much because like, the US invests a disproportionate amount of money in their military. Yeah. But in London, like, it's not a big sample size and it's just anecdotal evidence. But whenever I meet sort of like rough sleepers or homeless men, a lot of them are ex-military. They're you know, and it's amazing how they did that. They, you know, I agree. I'm inherently against, you know, intervention and that kind of thing. Yeah. But like they made a sacrifice, whether you think it's for a good reason or not. They put their lives on the line and then they come back and they're just left to no support, no nothing. Yeah. They're left with PTSD, financially, you know, destroyed. And it's just, it is a con. It's a con. It's like you're sold this idea that you're going to have all this prestige and all this respect, and it's phony respect. You know, Absolutely. It's not a genuine thing. So yeah, and like the most we have the same problem chronically with our veterans in America, and the most that like veterans get as far as institutional support after they come back is like 5% off at the Denny's. Like we don't give them anything, and you know. I mean, I would rather it not be like required to do military service to receive like financial aid throughout your life. I think everyone is entitled to just being able to live somewhere. You know, we have in California alone, we have more empty units than we have homeless people. Like we have the power to house people. It's just the housing market. It must be protected at all costs at the expense of people's lives. Amazing. What a beautiful world we live in.
I know, we're solving all the problems. It's
such a great time to be alive. Yeah. Oh, fucking hell. It makes you angry, doesn't it? I mean, that's a question I have for you. Like, because you think about politics a lot and stuff. How do you keep yourself sane? What do you do to unwind?
I'm a spiteful, angry person. No, I there's definitely moments where it's just like fuck, like I just don't know what to do. Like shit just keeps getting worse in America. But I try to, you know, there are a lot of people in, especially like the House of Representatives, that I really appreciate, that do give me hope in the long term. You know, people like AOC, people like Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, you know, and even in the Senate, Ed Markey and Bernie Sanders, I really appreciate. Not, you know, every politician isn't perfect, but that group of people, the people who openly identify as socialists. Cori Bush is another one in the House of Representatives. You know, she went from being homeless as a single mother to being Missouri's first Black representative, and that's incredible. And you know, I don't think she's gotten anything wrong. Like I might be wrong, but like as far as everything I've heard her say is like on the money. Everything I've seen her vote for is perfect. Or at least for the reasons that she says she's voting, you know, for. And those are the things that give me hope, because I try to pay attention even to the small scale stuff. Like I know that having a couple of socialists in the House of Representatives is not going to fix anything on its own. But in my mind, I feel like that was unheard of 10 years ago. And I think it's a start, you know. Like open socialists in office, I feel like would have been if that happened under George W. Bush, like they might have been killed. Like, you know? So
yeah,
that kind of stuff gives me hope.
They're still being threatened.
Yes, that's true. That's absolutely true. Yeah.
Knock on wood, obviously. I would never. Yeah, but I Actually, this is a flip side. I just asked like a positive question. Now I'm going to go back to it. I dipped in on one of your live streams. I can't remember what game you were playing, but you were in the middle of saying that you enjoy being a hater. Do you want to tell us about that? Because I'm actually in agreement, and I feel like this is a slightly unpopular opinion. So go ahead.
I think
tell me your thesis.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's an unpopular opinion for sure. And I think the like let people enjoy things mentality is getting a little old. And you know, like I think it's totally valid to just hate something. Like, I think it's okay to just look at that and look at like a movie or a show or whatever and just be like, yeah, that sucks. And it's like, if you're not an asshole about it, I think it's valid. Like, I don't know. I think if everybody, you know, it's like, I don't think my stance on, you know, whether something sucks or not should influence other people's. Like, I'll be a little annoying about it, but like, as long as you're not being mean or like, you know, malicious, go for it. Doesn't hurt anybody.
I wholeheartedly agree. Like, because when people say let people enjoy things, it's like, well, what if I enjoy hating on things?
Yeah.
Let me enjoy being a hater.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, what are sort of, you say you're into media and stuff, like what kind of films have you seen, or TV you've seen, or music? Anything you've consumed that you're a hater of recently? So,
I hate Star Wars, but I also love Star Wars.
Okay, go on.
I like 20% of Star Wars. I think I did the math, and that was actually like pretty close. Because I don't really like anything that came out after Return of the Jedi, except for The Last Jedi. I think The Last Jedi was incredible. Nobody else agrees with me. And then, you know, like the Rise of Skywalker, the last movie was just a nightmare that I wish never happened. And, you know, like I like The Mandalorian's first season, and then the second season was just awful because it was just nothing but like cameos from like other series that were created by Dave Filoni. And it's like, it's so annoying to watch this one guy with control of Star Wars being like, I'm going to put my character in this episode, and then I'm going to put my other character in this episode, and then my character's hanging out with Luke Skywalker. And it's like, shut up. I hate you so much. Like, this is a whole galaxy you're talking about, and all these characters know each other. Stop.
Yeah. Too much crossover.
Yeah, like, I don't think you should ever have a Star Wars cameo when you just have one show about a little metal man in a spaceship. No, you shouldn't see any other characters from any other Star Wars media because he's doing his own thing. You got so many planets you could go to. You could make up another fucking whole system. Like, why do we keep going back to the same things? It's so annoying. So yeah, I don't think a lot of people agree with me on that, because they either like some things that I don't like or they dislike things that I like. So I'm very like in the middle of it all. You know, I'm trying to think of other things that I hate. I'm playing all of the Zelda games on stream. I'm working my way through them, and I don't like most of those.
They're very popular though, aren't they?
They're very popular, and I just think they're really like kind of linear and constraining, especially like the 3D ones. Yeah, I could go on. I dislike a lot of things. I dislike all of the Spider-Man movies that don't have Tom Holland in them.
Interesting. Okay, so you're even the original, the Tobey Maguire
I think they're really funny movies. As a comic book fan, I do not like them.
Yeah, because apparently the newer ones are more accurate to the comics.
They're a little more accurate, but they have their own identity that I like. The Tobey Maguire ones, they're goofy. I love watching them, but like as movies, they're just too hard to take seriously. Like, it's just a goofy, fun like adventure, and I appreciate that. But like, I think Tobey Maguire is not a good actor, and he is carried by every other actor in those movies. Like, everyone else is doing a great job, but he's just kind of like fumbling along, which works. But I have a special resentment because people like to like compare and be like, this, you know, Spider-Man 2 is a masterpiece, and it's like, there's a scene where Spider-Man fucking is swinging around with some pizza, and a guy goes, hey, he stole that guy's pizza. Like, that's hilarious, but it's like, I'm not gonna say it's a masterpiece. That's silly.
Whenever I think of Tobey Maguire, I think of did you ever watch the film as a kid, Cats and Dogs?
Yes, he in that?
I believe he's the dog, like the main dog, the puppy.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
I'm going to Google it to be sure.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so that's what I think of. So I'm like, that is a masterpiece.
Yeah, I agree. Cats and Dogs is a
high
best.
cinema. Yep, it is. He plays the main
Wow.
dog, Lou.
I had no idea. I watched that movie so many times as a kid on VHS.
I know. Yeah, I had it on DVD, so I watched it. Yeah, loads. I mean, my unpopular opinion,
Yes.
and I know I'm going to get crucified for this. I didn't finish it, so maybe if I gave it another chance, but I did not like Killing Eve.
I don't even know what that is.
Killing Eve. It was it's meant to be like quite popular amongst queer women, and it's about like a female assassin.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got Sandra Oh in it, and it's written by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who wrote Fleabag.
Oh,
I don't know
okay.
if you're familiar with it.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
And
Yeah.
it's really, really popular. And the first few episodes, I just thought it was really badly written. Like, there was a death that was so obvious, like from the beginning. You know when they write characters, like they give them no depth, and then they suddenly have loads of depth, and
Yeah.
their kids on screen, and they're like really deep, and it's like, okay, so they're gonna die. And it was just like, I just lost. Yeah. And then the second one is Euphoria. Now, this one, I know people are not going to enjoy me saying, but I got through like the first 5 minutes, and the thing that made me just sort of switch off was, she was like talking about being born, and then like they had this like overlay of 9/11, and I was just like, oh, you fucking kidding me. I was
That's
just
awesome.
like, it was just like, I don't know. I just found it very cliche. I was just like, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm being harsh, but I was just a bit like,
Everything
I
I've
don't
heard
know.
about Euphoria just makes it sound like it's like Riverdale, but for a slightly older audience.
Yeah, Riverdale, but a bit more edgy on HBO. It was originally an Israeli show.
What?
I believe.
Like only
And the
available in
US
Israel?
well, as in they made maybe the first season in Israel,
Oh.
and then it didn't take off or whatever, and the US version is a remake,
Whoa. That's so interesting.
technically. So like The Office, or
Yeah.
can't think of any others at the top of my head, but that kind of thing.
That's so
So-
interesting.
That is interesting. But,
Oh, I have
yeah.
one that will get all the queers mad at me. Here's my queer betrayal. I don't like Hannibal.
oh, I've never seen it.
Yeah, so it's
You don't like it, so what don't you like about it? Get the people riled up. Tell us what you don't like.
so you're familiar with the show though, with Mads
Yeah,
Mikkelsen
yeah,
as Hannibal Lecter, which I love. That's a great casting. I love the cast.
Mm.
And I loved the first few episodes, but like basically it's about, Hannibal Lecter is helping the FBI track down serial killers, and obviously being Hannibal Lecter on the side. And he's, also the therapist to the main character, and there's like a back and forth. It's very homoerotic. It's great. But while all of that is happening, every single episode has a new mass serial killer in it. And I got to the middle of season 2 or the beginning of season 3, and it's like, how is there every single episode a new serial killer with a body count of 50? What is going on? I know America's a rough place, but that's insane. It's so hard to buy that after a certain period. It's just awful.
We have an even more absurd kind of example of that. In the UK, there's a show called Midsummer Murders, and it's kind of like, I guess it's pensioners, and my parents watch it, that kind of thing. It's like a fun little quaint show about murder, but it's set in this little village in the countryside in England, and obviously there's a murderer every single episode, murdering upwards of 10 people.
Whoa.
And it's the same village every episode, and it's been going on for 15 years, this show, maybe even more.
Wow.
And I obviously you've got to suspend your disbelief a bit, but then you get to a point where you're like, villagers don't have many people. How the hell? How is this happening? So, yeah.
Well, it's it kind of seems like a Law and Order kind of situation where it's just something that you kind of have on.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's comfort. It's definitely comfort watching. It's because I love me some murder stuff, you know.
Oh, same.
Love a bit of murder. Oh, you know, yeah. Are you into true crime at all?
Yeah, I definitely had a true crime phase when it kind of picked up on Twitch over the summer, with the like JCS
on
channel.
Twitch?
Yeah, like a lot of Twitch streamers were reacting to murder content, and this channel JCS blew up that did really good videos, and that kind of like ushered in this wave of like people trying to copy them, which ended up in a lot of good, a lot of good stories. There's definitely, for me, like I have to separate it to make me not sad, to like understand that these things are real. So I'm just like, I'm just gonna watch it and pretend like it's not real. That makes me feel a little better.
No, I also went through a phase of watching lots of like true crime YouTubers, and they're a big thing. Like I think there's a real community there. Kind of fascinating, though. I agree. Same. I've kind of gone off it because now I can't really watch it without thinking about they're real.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just makes me sad.
It makes me really sad because like some of them are just so tragic, and it's just like I don't want to understand the implications of this like in reality.
Yeah, and especially if they're recent cases. I do question. I would like to sort of dive into more the morality of that, like how at what point is it acceptable to speak about how many years need to have passed, that kind of thing, because if we talk about like Jack the Ripper, for example, everyone who knew the victims is now dead, so that's a different thing to someone who was murdered last year. You know what I mean?
Like I think if a video came out about the like Gabby Petito case from the last year, it's like I don't know if that's good.
Well, I mean, that was a big thing on TikTok, though. That was the problem, because there were people who were like vigilante investigators, detectives, and it's just like you do realize you're actually making it more difficult by just sort of, I don't know, doing gossip, and I don't know. It's just a bit. It feels icky.
Absolutely.
But
cases from like 30, 40 years ago, I think are a little more acceptable, or like cold cases I think are interesting too.
Yes, true, because then they can like bring them to light and maybe help them get answers. Exactly. No, I know what you mean. There's shades of grey. I don't think true crime is inherently wrong, because there are some people who do have a very extreme stance on that, but I don't know, I just think we're, as human beings, like we've got morbid fascinations, and there's shades of grey, there's lines. I think you can engage with it in a more ethical way, and then some in a really unethical way, like when Hulu, not long after, like less than a month after the Astroworld incident, they released a documentary about it, and not enough time had passed, because even now we still don't really know exactly why and how the hell this happened. Like, it takes a while to understand, and they just slapdash whacked out a documentary about it, and it's just like, it feels very cash grabby, very cynical. I didn't like that. Very cynical. But oh well. But yeah. So, but on a brighter note, let's just think about happy things. Like dogs. Tell us about your dog.
Oh yeah, my dog's name is Ronan. I adopted him last August, and me and my whole family are like, we realized recently, like it's only been like 6 months, but it feels like it's been way longer than that. He's a little he's a lab pit bull chow chow mix.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does he have a blue tongue? Like
he
chow
has blue spots on his tongue, and he has the chow chow curly tail, like a little pig.
Oh,
yeah,
that's adorable.
He's a big sweetheart. He's super like attached, and we're working on separation anxiety, but he's my emotional support animal, and he does a really good job. Yeah, he's great.
How old?
He's 2.
Do you know how old he is roughly, or did? Oh, 2. Nice.
Yeah, he was just a stray that he actually had a back injury that we don't know exactly what from. So he had a herniated disc when he was a puppy, and so he has like some neurological slowness in his back paws. But other than that, he's a totally normal dog. Because the rescue I got him from works with like disabled animals and stuff like that. Yeah, it's Marley's Mutts. If anyone's looking for a sweet little dog in the California area.
Shout out.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to shout out another charity that helps out.
Yeah.
It's called Goats of Anarchy, and it's a charity that specifically rescues disabled goats.
Aww.
And it is I believe it's on the East Coast somewhere. I can't remember what state it's in, but I follow them on the gram, and oh my god, their content is amazing. The goats are fantastic. They've got like live goat cams where they live stream the goats.
Oh my god, that's great.
It's fantastic. It's just what a time, eh? What a time to be alive. That's one of the great things about the internet. All the animal content. Yes, Twitter is toxic and TikTok is toxic, but you wouldn't have all these banging animal talks, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
that's true.
Some good shit.
Well, and it's like, there's so many resources about like learning more about your animal too.
Exactly. Does he ever appear in videos, or I don't think
here and there? I think he's in one video one time where I like react to something and I like fall down on the floor, and then I like position the camera kind of on the ground, and he comes up and sniffs me to make sure I'm okay, and then he goes and lies back down. But yeah, he's not. I wanted to do a video where I give him a bath, but I want to put it on like a second channel or something because it's not going to be long enough for the algorithm is a fickle thing. I don't want to mess with it.
It is.
Yeah,
undoubtedly. Yeah, no, Siggy hates baths, unfortunately. So.
Yeah, I don't know if he minds it. Like, we've gone on walks in the rain, and he doesn't mind that, and he's very comfortable with like being like, grabbed and manipulated, because I always have to I have a car seat for him. It's like just a harness that the seatbelt goes through. And he's fine when I put that on him and put his raincoat on him and stuff like that. So I think he'd be fine. It just depends on how well he can tolerate the loudness of the bath.
Oh, Ronan, what a handsome boy. Yeah. I'm going to give him a round of applause.
Yeah.
Quietly, though, not too loudly, because I don't want to blast people's eardrums. But, thank you so much. This has been that's good. We ended on a high.
Yes.
We talked about some annoying stuff, so I wanted to end on a high. But do you want to tell the people where they can find your videos?
Yeah, my YouTube channel is just Ethan is Online. I make very funny videos. I'm also on Twitter.
They are.
Oh, thank you. I'm also on Twitter at Ethan is Online. If anyone can help me get the at Ethan is Online, please let me know.
I like Ethan though.
I know it's a good backup.
Yeah, I definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you live stream as well, don't you?
Oh yeah, I'm on Twitch. It's Pethan Online, because it can never be the same everywhere. We're playing
it's a nightmare,
Zelda,
isn't it? Claiming the names.
I know.
You know who I'm very jealous of? Jarvis Johnson has Jarvis on Twitter.
I know.
Jarvis, and I'm like, how did you manage to get that?
Yeah, I think Ethan Nestor Crank Gameplays has at Ethan, which I'm super jealous of. I know.
That is wow.
I know.
Yeah, because Ethan is an unusual name. It's not like super common, but
yeah, it's fairly common for like people my age. Like I remember looking up in 1999, it was like the 5th most common name or something.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, that's fair. Yeah. And since as I always do with my guests, would you like to say bye-bye in the style of Toy Story 2? Bye. Bye now.
Yes.
I do that at the end of my videos. Yeah, don't worry.
Gotcha.
I know. It's it's a niche reference.
Yeah. No, I don't want to seem like a fake fan.
Is that the end credits?
Gotcha.
Yeah, no. Don't worry. Okay, so in 3, 2, 1. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.
Bye.